This single trait is the difference maker between the guys that are running it to 10, 20, 30, 50K a month plus, building out teams, leading teams, scaling, and exiting, versus the guys that stay small. So, what is our identity? In short, this is who we think of when we think of ourselves. When we're going day to day and we begin to have this self-talk of who we believe we are, the reason that you've established these set of beliefs about yourself is because it is your identity. Because every single decision that you make will either put you closer to or further away from your preferred identity. Now, obviously, everyone would love to be the guy that can wake up at 4:30 in the morning, go get a workout in, grab a coffee, work for 3 hours straight on some deep work, spend time with God, eat the right foods, and do the same thing every single day without fail. But almost no one does that. And you might ask yourself, why is that? And it's because we've established these set of beliefs in our mind that we cannot achieve that. See, your competition, they already see themselves as high value, they're high achieving, they put in extremely high amounts of effort, they take big risks. They already view themselves as that because they haven't given themselves a reason to not believe that they're anything but that. But the problem is, each time that you sit in indecision or you sit in a lack of action, you're overthinking, you're doing research, all of these things, they pull you away from your preferred identity because you're allowing yourself to buy into this thought process and idea that you're someone who isn't the preferred identity, that you're someone who can't make 30K a month, 50K a month, right? That you don't have the discipline because you are not keeping the promises that you have told yourself you would. See, skipping a day doesn't hurt you directly. Sometimes you need to take a rest. I get it. But most of the time, it's the killer of your preferred identity because it's not the action of skipping a day that really hurts you. It's the mentality that lets you get away with it without feeling any sort of remorse because you were able to talk yourself down and be like, you know what? Maybe I earned this. Maybe I can go take a nap because I went and ran this morning, right? Maybe I can just not send DMs today and not run ads. Maybe I'll just do a little bit more research, right? And all of these things are pulling you away from your preferred identity and from who you are supposed to become. Now, the problem that I see more often than not with guys that have not established a clear identity of who they want to become and are not taking direct steps every single day to become closer to the man that they want to become is that they've never done anything hard in their life. They've never done anything for an extended period of time that has been truly grueling, that has made them challenge themselves and grab another level when they thought that they had to quit and they were able to go 1 more mile, 5 more miles, right? To work for 5 more hours, right? They have never focused long enough on one certain task. If anything, just for the fact that you can prove to yourself that you even have it in you to do something like that. Otherwise, you spend the rest of your life believing that you never could, right? If you've never done anything that's grueling for a long period of time, you're never going to be the person that can do something grueling because you've never even taken the challenge to go do it. Or maybe you did take the challenge and you said, you know what? This is hard. I'm going to back off for a minute. I'm going to try something else. Right? And all that does is pull you away from the preferred identity that you need to become. What I found, because I know the next question on everyone's mind is, well, what happens if I hit burnout, right? Burnout's inevitable. It's going to happen. Burnout doesn't exist if these 3 things are in check. Now, the first, is your why in the right place? I'm going to touch on this later, but the reason that you're doing the hard stuff, that you're showing up and you're being better than 99% of people in the term of effort and in the term of character and identity, it has to be outside of yourself. Because if it's from selfish ambition and these desires and lust for things, right? A greed, a comparison. The Bible says that 1, it says comparison is the thief of all joy. 2, it says that envy is adulterous. Think about that. Think about when you look at your homie's car and you're like, dang, I wish I had that car. You are literally having sex with his wife. Think about that. Next, if you aren't neglecting faith, family, finances, fitness, and fun, If you aren't neglecting all five. Now, I need to be very careful when I say something like fun, because there's a lot of you that are neglecting all four, but you've got this one in check. And so you're like, okay, cool. At least I'm gonna focus on the fun of the 5 F's for today, right? Burnout becomes a problem when you neglect any of these. And there's a reason why faith is number one. If you are not being poured into and pouring out to something larger than yourself, then you will experience burnout. It is guaranteed. If you do not have some aspect of family, whether this is friends, some form of community, spending time with one another to, again, pour out and to be poured into, then you will experience burnout. If your finances are at a zero, if you are not able to steward your finances well, if you can't sit down and say, I'm only going to spend this much on this month, and that way I'll have some left aside so I can invest in ads or invest in a mentorship, things like that, you are extremely limiting yourself. Why do you think the Bible says that the borrower is a slave to the lender? Right? It doesn't mean it in the literal sense, like you owe them your life. But what it means is that you are now held back in your ability to give generously, to provide for others, right? To lead with love with your finances, right? You are now limited in your ability to do that because you owe X amount of money to Chase Bank, right? You will experience burnout if you're neglecting your finances. I don't even have to touch on fitness. You're 100% going to experience burnout if you are neglecting your fitness. Now, fun. Everyone has a different level, a different meter of the amount of fun that they need to have, right? As I said before, most people focus way too much on this and not near enough on what really matters, right? But the reason that this is in here is because this is an aspect of all four within it, right? It all depends on who you are as a person and what allows you to reach into a form of flow state. That is what I found to be the secret of fun things in my life, right? When I jump on a skateboard, right? And there's a beautiful ramp in front of me. There's a nice rail, right? I'm learning how to board slide right now. I kind of suck, but it puts me into flow state, right? And it allows me to rest in a way without just sleeping or taking a nap. It puts me into that flow state, right? There's many other things, and God has blessed you with these multiple different aspects of your life that you are able to get fun out of, right? Now, there's a massive difference on healthy balance and unhealthy balance. A lot of times people see a word like fun and they say, okay, great, like I'm gonna go out to the club, I'm gonna get messed up, right? We're gonna come back and I'm gonna have to drink Pedialyte for like the next 2 days. It's like, obviously that is an unhealthy balance, an unhealthy form of balance, because you have to recover afterwards. If you have to recover from the fun that you're having, it's not fun for your body. It's a lie that you're telling yourself that you need this form of unhealthy balance because of all the healthy stuff that you've been doing. It's an excuse, and you know it is. Now, healthy fun. This is the flow state, the healthy dopamine, going for a walk outside, right? Recording a video to your phone and just being able to speak your mind clearly, right? These are all things for me that give me healthy dopamine and bring me healthy forms of balance and fun. Now, I think I've probably beat that dead horse, but lastly, burnout does not exist if you force yourself, and this is something that I've implemented so many times. Right now I'm training for Hyrox, right? I'm 1 month in to training for Hyrox every single day. And the reason I did it is because I started to feel a form of burnout. And I said, man, I know my faith is in check. My family's in check. I'm stewarding my finances. My fitness is in check. I'm having a decent amount of fun, but I'm still just feeling a lack of purpose. What happens when you feel a lack of purpose is you need to force yourself to grab another gear by taking on a new challenge. Now, I believe that this works because it comes back aligned with doing something that's grueling for a long period of time to prove the kind of person you are, to prove your character to yourself, that you can grab a new gear, that you can continue to push forward, even in the midst of the super busy seasons, right? There's people out there, I've had even clients in my community that are working a full-time job, they're a full-time student, and then they scale their health coaching business to 5 to 10K a month, right? How are they able to do that with all of that on their plate and someone else isn't, right? And it's a difference of, right here, not acquiring the correct skills that were needed to win being misaligned with their identity, or ignoring one of the 5 F's, right? And this is the only time that I've ever seen my business suffer. If I hadn't acquired the correct skills, if I was misaligned with my identity, right? I was beginning to lie to myself. I wasn't making the promises that I said I would keep to myself, right? And it was pulling me away from my preferred identity, right? Or I was ignoring one of the 5 F's. And this is the only time that I've ever seen my business suffer. Isn't it crazy how there are no business problems, just personal problems that show up in our business? And that's why I want to hit so hard on identity. We have one talking point today, and that is identity for a reason. We have one talking point today, and that is identity for a reason, right? Now, lastly, 0 to 7K a month, such a low bar. You know how easy it is to hit 7K a month online? It's butter. Why? Because there are so many people that are misaligned with their identity. They think that they're the kind of person that can make 30K a month, but they don't realize that they're not doing any of the actions of the person who does make 30K a month, right? And that's the difference of 7K to 30K a month. It's about becoming the person who can steward 30K a month, who can steward their lives in a way where they deserve to be making 30K a month. That is the difference from the 7K a month guys to the 30K a month guys. Now, after that, the 30K a month to the 250K a month, all this is about leading others as well as you have learned to lead yourself, right? And this goes back to having a big enough why. Because if your why is all about yourself, then you are never going to be able to touch more lives. You won't even have the desire to touch more lives because all you've been focused on is me, and this lust for things and this idea that you want to build this empire for yourself. And it goes back to the story of the guy who built bigger barns. And he said, I'm going to tear down my old barns because they're all full. I'm going to build new, bigger ones. And I'm going to sit back and I'm going to say, man, like I'm going to just take a drink. I'm going to say my heart can be jolly, right? I can be happy. I am proud of what I've done, right? And Jesus said, you fool, your soul is needed for you tonight, right? Because he was not prepared. He was not ready. He let himself sit back and became misaligned from his identity. If your why is big enough, right? If you are the kind of person who sees the vision in front of you, right? And you know what you have to do to achieve it, and you have a bias for action, then you will become. Why was I so careful to say bias for action? Because this is one of the biggest problems that I see with guys that are stuck under 7K a month, right? Is they have a bias for being resourceful. But the problem is they're resourceful in the wrong things. They're resourceful around things that will allow them to stay stuck where they are. They're resourceful at finding excuses. They're not resourceful at finding the skills to be able to implement into their business so that it pays them returns over time. They're not resourceful in scraping together the cash to invest in a new course or mentorship and I know everybody hates the word course, but it literally saved my business. When I tell you that buying a course, opening up a brand new credit card on the call with my first mentor to join his community, making $3K the next month, 3 months later, making $10,000 in a month from coaching. I never thought it was possible, but I was willing to place the bet because I had a bias for action and I had been taking action for months and months and months prior to that. And I realized that if I couldn't acquire the skills that I needed to in a time frame to where I wasn't going to go broke and live on the street, right? I had spent 2 months selling my stuff just so I could keep rent. If I wasn't going to be able to be resourceful enough, I might as well go get a 9 to 5. Right? If you have a bias for action, you are able to take risk, right? And you aren't afraid to implement what you see, you will go very far, friend. But only if your why is in the correct place. I want you to ask yourself, starting from the bottom, do you lack the skills or do you lack the identity? I want you to take a moment and write down, what skills do you feel like you're lacking? What's holding you back from the 30K a month, the 250K a month, whatever your goal is? What skills are you missing? And then go invest time and resources into achieving those skills. And then write down, what pieces of your identity are you lacking, right? Maybe it's you aren't able to wake up early enough. Okay, it's time to go invest in time spent with someone else at that same time who is along the same track, meaning texting your buddy, hey, let's start working out at 5 a.m. together. Are you down? He's probably going to be down because he's going to be like, dang, like if I say no, bro's going to think that I don't want it that bad, right? If you text your buddy and you get an accountability partner, boom, problem solved, right? So writing down what pieces of my identity do I lack right now? And what pieces of the skill set do I lack right now? And that will be the answer of what's holding you back from anything from 0 to 30K a month. Is my reason for doing any of this bigger than myself? If your reason for doing any of this is just yourself, you will not make it. Even Alex Hormozi, he doesn't believe in God, right? But even he says in one of his interviews that your why has to be bigger than yourself. If all you want to do is just make money, you're going to fail. Mr. Wonderful, I heard say it as well. Lastly, are your disciplines, your bias towards action, and your stewardship principles worth the monthly revenue amount that you're trying to make? You don't just become a person who is making 30K a month. You become a person who is ready to make 30K a month, and then you become the person who is making 30K a month. If you have any questions at all, please drop them in the comment section and give me a follow on Instagram, where I post a lot more content and behind the scenes all the time. Much love.